Isachsen here, and welcome to my Saturday spiritual show. And we're live today, and our topic is the top 10 reasons people are afraid to die. Yeah, what did you think about that topic when you heard it? Also, if you're watching this on the replay later on, feel free to comment below because I often go back and answer your comments, and I really love it when you guys interact with me. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this topic, and also comment below. All right, so let me know if you can hear me and see me okay today. And once I get that confirmation in the chat area, I'll start right away and dive right into it. Okay, so Sergio Please says, afternoon, Silvia, or good morning. It just depends on which coast that you're on, right? So I'm really stoked to be here today and to talk about this topic because it is, I'll tell you what, I did a poll on YouTube, and I never had so many people so interested in a topic. And I'm gonna show you the poll shortly and let you see what people voted for what their top 10 fears were of dying. So I find that quite fascinating. And now, Sergio Please says, I'm one of 3. So, yeah, okay, so it quickly grows. I'm really excited about this show because so many people do interact. And the reason why I decided to talk about this topic is because not very many people feel 100% comfortable to speak about death and dying in a light-hearted manner. And that's really what I want to do, is I want to talk about it to help inform people and to get rid of some of the fear, and to share with you what some of the NDEers have shared with me through their near-death experience. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that I have 2 really cool NDEs coming up for you. One is with a woman named Karen Thomas, and I've been speaking with her about her NDE, and I think you're really going to love it. I wanted to thank Leo for his NDE that was super popular. That's on. If you haven't seen it, I'll post a link below. And also, I have an additional NDE surprise coming up with a gentleman named Johnny Davis. So, pretty stoked. All of these, I'm trying to get you NDEs that perhaps you haven't heard about before, and also to a different take on it. So whenever you're ready, let me know with a thumbs up or say hello in the chat area. Step off the sidelines and get into the game of interaction. Before I start, I'd also like you to know that anything could happen. Someone could come to the door, and my dog could start barking, and it's live. I love doing it like this because I think it's more sort of genuine to have the show like that. Okay, so let me, without further ado, show you what the polls showed. So here it is. Again, more people participated in this poll than any other poll. And I find it interesting that so many people were interested in the topic and yet perhaps are afraid of dying. So I just want to make sure that everybody can chat here and that I don't just have it on comments from my members, because I also have a membership here on YouTube, which is super cool. I love it. So if you're here and you're not a member, please say hello so I know that you can hear and see me. So as you can see, I did a poll and I asked them, please select the number 1 reason you believe people are afraid of dying. Now, YouTube would only allow me to put 5 options on there, and then other people commented below. So these are the top 5, and then we're going to talk about some more reasons why people are afraid of dying. Surprising to me, the least one, the 1%, was missing your body, because I thought a lot of people would be attached to their body. But they weren't. And so they were willing to give that up first. And then next was losing your identity. That's another one that I thought that people would be really kind of fascinated with, or at least like, I want to be me. Because oftentimes when I'm speaking to people about their near-death experience, they will say, will I still be me? If I lose my body, will I still be me? So that was number 2. Number 3 was the life review. That was another surprise for me because I thought that people would be concerned about their life review. A lot of people are afraid of whether they'll go to heaven or hell because that's what they say to me. They'll write me and say, I'm concerned. And I'm going to go over that today as well. We're going to talk about each one of these. The next one was missing your loved ones. And I can totally understand that. I can understand why people would miss their loved ones. And that would be a fear that people would have. I'd like to address each one of these in conversation. And the biggest one, which I posted as the last option, 62% out of, I think it was something like 150 people responded to this. And this is why I'm bringing this to you as a topic. And 62% voted that uncertainty of death was their biggest fear of all. The biggest reason why they were afraid of dying. So are you surprised at this top 5? It's going to be top 10, but are you surprised at these or no? Give me a yes or a no in the chat area. Okay, Skippity Doodah says, I love listening to your information, but you are so beautiful. It can be distracting. Sorry about that. Can't help the way I am. And I would argue to say maybe that's not 100% true, but whichever. This show is about spirituality. And you know what I thought about spirituality is that a lot of people, by the way, Shelly, can you hear me okay and see me all right? Because you're the moderator. Okay, so people are saying they're not surprised. Okay, so here's the thing is that a lot of people feel uncertain about death. And I would like to dispel that uncertainty by sharing experiences that people who have died and come back have shared with me. And that is that one in particular, and Daryl is usually here. Daryl had an NDE through a car accident, and then he slipped into a coma. And during his coma, he went on living, which is a very interesting and unique NDE. He went on living, and he said that it was like blinking. Like he blinked his eyes, and then he was over on the other side. I think that in and of itself gives me confidence, but I've also heard that other people transition onto the other side, where each NDE I've ever heard of, they say that they don't feel the pain when they died. That was something else that people mentioned in the comments, that they weren't afraid of all the reasons. Their reason was that they were afraid of the pain of dying. It's only when they come back to their body. And interestingly enough, thanks Martin, thanks Shelley, thanks Sergio, please. Interestingly enough, when I go to the other side and I have dreams of speaking to my guides or people who have passed away, I come back to my body, and if I've ever had any pain in my body, then I feel it come on. The pain comes on, so I'll wake up and I won't feel it, and then so sometimes I used to experience lower back pain. And if I was going through a lower back pain episode, then when I wake up, I feel no pain, and slowly the pain comes back. And that is because I'm returning fully back. My consciousness is returning fully back to my body. And I think the same thing as when someone has a near-death experience, when they're away from their body and they're floating up at the top of the room, like Karen, which is my next NDE that's coming. She says she didn't feel any pain when she was at the top, and yet she was having surgery on an operating table. So my point is that I think that pain is associated with the human body, and once you've passed on, that you're not going to be feeling any of that pain, and it happens very quickly. So many NDEs have said the same thing, these near-death experiences. So for those people who are worried about the pain of dying, I think that there's not much to worry about. Now, if you're dying of a long terminal disease, that's a different story. That's not what we are going to talk about today, but I definitely would be afraid of that as well, and I understand that that fear is justified in going through that. As far as your family members and missing them is concerned, I want to share something with you. So I've had the opportunity, and I want to call it the luxury, of speaking to my father who's passed on, my grandfather who's passed on, having a great big dinner at a table with all of my relatives who have passed on, and I know for certain that you will meet again with the people, with your loved ones that are there. So I feel really confident in sharing that information with you. So I want to know here in the actual chat area, how many of you are afraid of a specific reason of dying? Now, I just want to show you the poll again, just for a second. So here's our poll, and that is right here. So this is what people answered. The number one reason is the uncertainty of it all. The next reason for fear is the life review. The next one is missing loved ones. Not a lot of people were concerned about missing their body and then losing their identity. That I was surprised about, because I think a lot of people really identify with who they are. So to actually lose your identity would be a fear. Really interested to hear what you're all thinking about this topic. It's a little different than what I normally do on this channel, but I think that it really is spearheading a lot of people's concerns. Now, what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to hit this chat area. This is the first time I'm using this feature of the software, so I want you guys to see these comments below. Okay, so I'm going back to my thing. So people said, oh, who's going to take care of my dog and cat? That's what concerns me. Karen Doyle says, you know what, Karen? And by the way, hi, Lucy. Karen, I feel you on that one, because I feel like people are concerned. Have you ever really paid attention to when the near-death experiencers, like, for example, I just want to remember her name, the one who, Mary Neal. So Mary Neal had 4 kids, I believe, and when she passed away, that was a concern. And when the beings on the other side spoke to her, they said, don't worry, your kids will be fine. Remember that each and every one of us is coming to experience something different. And one of the experiences that some souls come to experience is not having a parent or 2 parents. Now, I would say that that is a very hard lesson to learn, no doubt about it, but it would also be a very rewarding lesson to learn. Personally, I'm not advocating that that's a good thing. I'm just saying that that's a lesson. So let's say, for example, with your dog or your cat, well, what would happen if somebody adopted them and really loved them, and the best case scenario was that you were able to be free and move on to a different dimension and your animals were taken care of as well? Or in the worst case scenario, if one of them passed and then just joined you on the other side. And I've actually had dreams of a couple of my dogs, Shadow, and another one of my dogs, I called him Pootie, and I've dreamt of them, and even a cat that I had, and they are there on the other side as well. So I, again, would like to share that with you so that we can dispel the fear. Hi, Lily Jane. Great to see you. Love all your flowers. Martin says, being judged is the biggest fear. Not being good enough. Oh, wow. That is so good. It's so good because... And Shauna, I see you, and I want to talk to you about something because you're a member and you had a question I want to reply to. But the fear of being judged is really something that I think fits into this category. Let me just switch to the fear of being judged is, I'm going to go down here, under the life review one. So a lot of people that I was talking to were afraid of hell, privately, they will message me, okay? And I'm not naming any names. But the fear of going to hell, the fear of going through a review, the fear of all those things, I understand why, because I get it. I think we all understand that there are repercussions to our behaviors. But, however, and this might seem an easy fix, if you're living your best life and you're not imposing your will on others and you're not hurting others and you're being conscientious of the things that you're doing and saying and who you are being, and you're not blaming and shaming and being oppressive to others, I do believe that God is a very compassionate God. I do believe God's goal is not to say you're good, you're bad, but to allow us the freedom of expression in this life. And if you choose to do things that are erogenous and just against any level of humanity or consciousness, then of course you may experience an unpleasant life review or needing to go someplace where it is not so beautiful. But I would like to share something very specific about hell. Okay, so before I do, I wanted to just say here to Shauna, you can ask any questions here or even in the membership area, and I'll be happy to go live with it. I don't have a specific schedule of when I go live in the membership, but if I see questions building up, I love to answer them, and I would prefer to do it in video than writing it down. Okay, and Anton said, is your channel lagging or my network? I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't know. I could try to change the Wi-Fi to go direct. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, let me know if you guys can still hear me, if I'm still connected and still live. Okay, so next, Shelley G says, God himself is incomplete without you. You are the apple in the center of his eye. You are completely loved and accepted by him. He only thinks good of you. I agree, Shelley G, 100%, 110%. So even if people, we're going to go, I'm just going to quit out of my messenger so that way the messages don't come through. If you did things in life that you were not conscious that were against the will of God, for example, then you went through your life review and you had to experience it based on what God saw, how you behaved, and how the other person was impacted. I think that life review would be so helpful for you so that you can become better. You know, that's the whole point of the life review, is so that you can scan your entire lifespan and consolidate who you were being so that you could ultimately be your best self. And some people have had very short life reviews and they haven't had a lot of things to contemplate or ponder on. And I'm not sure where we got this idea from that we're all, sinners and going to a bad place or a good place. And this is where I want to bring something up that I feel is very important. I've said it before, so if you've heard it, let me know that you've heard it. But here's the thing. Right here on earth, right now, there are people that would consider that it's hellish for them. And other people are living in heaven. They're living in abundance. They're living joyful lives. It's easy for them. They are co-creating with God easily, and they feel like all of their needs are met. And then there's other people right here on earth who are having the opposite experience, where their needs are not being met, and they are really having a very, very big struggle. So I would like to use that very tangible experience to help you see that heaven and hell aren't as far apart as what we think. Like this veil that we're all talking about is very thin. Even right here on earth, there are people living in a completely different dimension. Without going to that extreme, there could be somebody right now living in the African Serengeti, living the most adventurous life ever. And then you could have somebody living in North America having the most boring, dull life ever. So, there's a lot of contrast even right here on Earth, which takes me to a deeper place, and that is a place of consciousness. One thing that I would think people would be concerned about is you can't run away from yourself as much as people would like to. And that's why we have such a problem with anxiety, because we really can't run away from ourselves. And we do have to manage and deal with our thoughts, feelings, and who we are being. The small problem is most people don't realize that they are the contributors to and the obstacle to their problems. And I'm not about blaming, shaming, or judging. This is a light-hearted conversation about death, dying, but more importantly, living. Actual living. And I think more people, this is the next one. So we had 5 already. The next one, number 6, is actually afraid of dying because you haven't lived. Who agrees with that? So you're afraid of dying because you haven't fully lived. You haven't expressed or become or bloomed who you truly want to be for fear of being judged. And do you guys see this connection yet? Hi, Yvonne. Do you guys see this connection? Hi, Anton. So the connection is we're all afraid, right on here on Earth, we're afraid to actually fully live and be the full expression of who we are and co-creator because we're afraid to be judged. I'm getting somewhere with this, okay? There's a next. So we're afraid to be judged. So we don't live to our full potential, and then we feel stuck and we don't want to move on to another glorious place because we're stuck. So then when we get to our life review, we think, oh my gosh, I'm afraid for the life review because I'm going to be judged. And maybe I wasn't my best self. Maybe I judged too much. Maybe I had low self-esteem, so then I inflicted on everyone else. Maybe, maybe you did great things and maybe you're happy about that, but you don't know. So the fear of the unknown truly does play a role. I do want to address something. No problem. You're never late, Crispy. I do want to address something, and that is that the reason why frequently we don't fully bloom is for a special word called authenticity. And that is when you're born, immediately everyone tries to tell you who you should and shouldn't be, whether it's a parent, whether it's at school, whether it's people in the, your siblings. They're trying to tell you things like don't cry, be strong, or do this, do that. You better like this. You better eat everything on your plate, blah, blah, blah. And we're just so full of trying to tell people all the time, constantly exerting our control over others, which we all know that our will is our will, and we have free will, so we shouldn't impose our will on other people. There are certain structures that need to happen for parents and children, but generally speaking, we don't need to pummel the authenticity out of people. So we go through life getting pummeled the authenticity out of us, and then suddenly we get to between the ages of 30 and 50, and so-called a crisis happens. It's not really a crisis. It's a natural progression that you realize, hey, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am because I've been spending my whole time trying to be someone else who I thought that I could conform with. So this ties in with the fear of death, because really because I know 100% for certain that there is no death, I can also see the other perspective. If you haven't lived your life, you ask yourself, why didn't I live my life? Oh, well, because so-and-so said this and this was that, or these circumstances. And if you want to chime in on the conversation, please do get off the sidelines and get on the chat and get interactive here, because there's really room for growth. And the growth happens with all of us. It's not just me and my show, it's our show. This is our community. So if you've lived a full life and you've done everything that you wanted and you've been pleasant and you had the opportunity to overcome your obstacles and get out of the way out of your success, and you've experienced all that you want to experience, you're ready to move on. You're ready for a new experience. And that's what happens. You step out of this body and you move into another experience. You're not going to die. Now, if you truly do believe, and I hate to use the word hell, hate and hell. I don't like any of those two words. However, if you believe that you are going to go to hell, and you believe that your life was wretched, and you believe all those things, then what do you think you're going to see here or on the other side? It's the same principle. The principle is what you believe, you co-create with God, with that energy. So you have the right and the will to co-create misery as well as joy. And that spectrum is what we get confused about. That's the uncertainty of it all. You know, what is the difference between living and dying? And it's because we are taught that you're going to go to, after you die, you're going to go one place. That's it. This place or that place. Really? Do you think a God that created an entire universe like the universe that we have today only limits of 2 locations that we are going to go to when we pass on? Do you really believe that? I think most of us do, because we've been, told that and fed that. But the reality is that there are multiple dimensions of existence beyond, and we are co-creators of it, just like here on Earth. If it's hard for you to conceptualize what I'm saying, think about this planet and how many different countries and cultures and experiences that people are having that are both hellish and joyous. So if that's happening here, and we're in reality, don't you think that perhaps that's happening when we pass on too? And what are your thoughts about that? I would like to hear that. Could you expand the spectrum of existence beyond just heaven and hell? And what is heaven? A lot of people are afraid, like I've heard them say in my chat and actually the comments, that heaven would be boring after a while. Personally, I don't think so, because I have a broad spectrum of what heaven is to me. But I think some people would find that. And I'm really fascinated by this topic. I have been for a long time. And I think it's easy to be fascinated about this topic because I'm not afraid of dying. And I think I would like to share that courage of it with you. Nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to leave. But if you do have to leave, for example, people think, well, life can't go on without you. Like your children or your pets or anything. I really want us to think about that for a second. The world has been turning, the earth has been turning for how many billions of years? At least 4 billions of years. The solar system has existed for billions of years, our galaxy, everything. And if we pass on into a different form of light and energy where we came from anyways, that the whole world's going to stop. Well, I don't think so. No AI said there's clearly physical pain and mental pain. The former would be responsible to manage the body and ensure its survival. Right. So physical pain here on Earth is good because, if you're burning yourself, you got to move your hand away from it and you feel it, and your sensory perception. It's a very good thing to have. However, when you leave the body and you don't need the body anymore, you don't have to utilize that pain. But some of us actually carry on a pain, an internal pain of development. So pain from a sorrow or a trauma that people have. And that's where forgiveness and understanding work together. But it's hard to forgive someone if you don't have an understanding of it. I think initially people will say, well, I need to forgive someone, so I forgive them. But they don't genuinely let go of that pain, and then they keep it and contain it. So here's an indicator. If you're blaming, shaming, judging, then you know you have an area to work. You don't even need to go through your life review to assess that. If you're blaming, shaming, being cruel, unkind to people who you don't know, as well as people who you do know, then we can work on that, right? And the other day, I use this as an indicator for myself. If I'm rushing to go into a lineup before someone else and I want to get there before, that tendency to want to, serve yourself before anyone else, I think that's an indicator of that there's something that could be worked there. Or if you're telling people that, what to do, or like the people who write comments and things like that, there's a way and there's a way. I think open discussion is really good, and I think debate is really good. But the way and the intention behind what we do, say, think, and who we are, that is the difference. And that is where we're going to be weighed. Our heart will be weighed by God going through the review. And usually it's guides. Like the person who I'm just about to interview for an NDE stated that, and that's coming up on Monday, I'm interviewing, she said that her guides said, there's no judgment here. We're just doing this for you. We're reviewing this for you so that you can get enlightenment from the situation. She was really happy. Okay, so YDU Sen said 99.99% of people are afraid to die. After leaving the body, there is no pain. Correct. However, we don't have to underestimate death, which is, by the way, it can be painful. Right. Well, so can a lot of things be painful. Correct. And I think that in pain, we can learn from that. But let me show you another example, okay? So, Yadu Sen, when you came into this life through your mother, I'm sure that when everyone did, I'm sure that there was some pain involved with being born. And we were a different being, well, we're same being, but in different form, before we came through our mothers into this earth, correct? And now we are this form. Now we're used to it, we like it, and we don't want to change. We don't want to change this form into another form. We just want to stay in it. But where were you before? Good question to ask yourself. And the pain that you went through to get here through your birth experience, was that a bad thing or was that a good thing? And now it's the way that we perceive what pain is in our life. And here's the other thing. The other thing is I find it very astonishing that most people don't actually consider dying as something that's going to happen to them. Let me clarify. We never really talk about it in our culture, generally speaking, or at least the culture that I'm surrounded by. So therefore, when death does happen, we're all like, oh my God, that person died, as if maybe nobody ever died before, or that no one ever is going to die after that. I think that if we change the word into transform, I'm going to be transforming, so you find out that you have to transform, and then somehow that word doesn't have the heavy connotation on it that you're going to transform. What if I told you, nope, you have to stay here. You can never transform. You just have to live this life forever, and you can never outgrow it or wish for any kind of transformation. How would that make you feel? I'm going to take a sip. Hold on. How would that make you feel if you could never transform? And by the way, I purposefully wore pink and light colors today because I wanted to make light of the butterfly. What if you told the caterpillar, or what do you call it, pupa, that they can never turn into a butterfly? What if you said that? What if we looked at it from a different perspective, that death could actually be the beginning and the growth of who we are? Now, I understand that's a very different perspective, and I want to share why. Because I want you to have joy while you're living. I don't want you to fixate on death. I want you to be joyful while you're here. And understand that if you can understand that there's a limited time to this, then perhaps we would appreciate our lifespan longer. Let's make the assumption that we're all relatively healthy and relatively happy. Hi, Jim. So in that case, if we're relatively happy and healthy, instead of fixating on the end, if we knew that that was coming, if we knew that a transformation was coming for certain, and we didn't know exactly when, I think that we would really value our lives more and do more to enjoy this existence and to be kind. Like if you knew that the person that you were talking to at the grocery store was going to live for 3,000 more days, I think you might value that person more, and you would be kinder and gentler and more thoughtful, and we would value each other more. Instead, we think we're going to live forever, which in fact that's not that's not a terrible thing to think that we're going to live forever. We are going to, but not as this particular experience. Like I will never be Silvia again in this particular body, with this particular family, with this particular experience, unless there's something I don't know about. So why not? Hi Daryl, I talked about you earlier and your near-death experience and how you, when you went into the coma, you opened your eyes in the coma and you were sitting on a couch and you went through living your whole year that you were in this coma, and that with a blink of an eye you were watching TV in that alternative life, alternate existence, parallel existence, and then you came back and opened your eyes. That's fascinating to me. This transition was so seamless, and this is what I'm hearing again and again from near-death experiencers, that the transition between here and there, the veil is so seamless. It's almost like an immediate transformation. And if we asked a butterfly, did you become a member, Jim? Jim's got an ongoing joke where he thinks he's going to get a jacket with his name on it if he becomes a member. We don't have a tier for that. By the way, if you are interested in membership, you can hit the join button and you get to answer. We do a lot of stuff. I'm not going to explain it right now, but if you were to ask a butterfly if they were afraid from the caterpillar to the butterfly, or the pupa to the butterfly, I think that they would think it's a natural thing. What if we thought it was a natural thing to move on? What if we were that awake and conscious of living that dying is part of the experience? I don't want to get there any sooner. I don't have like a death wish at all. I'm happy to live out my entire life, but I think that thinking about thoughts, hey, something happened here. Did somebody just, whoa, Lily Jane, thank you so much for your generous super chat. I really do appreciate that. Thanks a lot, means a lot. Wow, light within us, nice. I want to talk about the light within you. So we've heard it before, and I will say it again. We are that light within us. And that light within us is our connection to one another and to God. And when we move from a physical earthly body, like we're here on earth, and all of the elements of earth and of the stars are within our body. So when we enter into an incarnation, carne meaning flesh, in flesh, we of course have and carry this body, but when we leave the body, we are light. And we are joined. Imagine how much light is in the universe, and all of that is all of us connected. So when we really understand how grand we are in terms of how big we are as a connected network of souls and beings with God right in us, and that we are co-creators and that we never die, how does that change the mindscape and atmosphere of being here on earth? Instead, what I see is a bunch of emergencies. Like everybody's kind of like in a panic and a compulsive repetitiveness that I think we can let go of. I mean, what kind of control do we have with regards to living and dying? We could say, if we were scientists, we could say 100% that we're certain that that's going to happen, right? Would you agree, yes or no? Say yes or no. And Balancer00 says, hi Sylvia, hi back to you. Love doing this show interactive. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to comment. If you are here and you want to contribute, but you're not ready to be a member, no problem. Please give me a thumbs up and comment and subscribe, because it really does help. YouTube does reward the YouTubers, so I appreciate it. Anyways, speaking of rewards, So if you go to your life review with an attitude of gratitude and say, I'm ready for it. Hi, Zach84 from Serbia. You go to your life review and you say, I'm ready for this review. I want to know where my vision was blocked. I want to get rid of those hidden blocks. I want to understand how I could treat my fellow souls better. I want to learn instead of fearing it. Now, I want to make sure that I don't overlook the concept that there are darker energies and forces and areas of existence. Clearly, I'm wearing pink and I'm all about love and joy and abundance. So I'm not really existing in those realms, and I don't have an inclination to bring those realms to me. I acknowledge that they exist. That's not where I want to go. And if it's not where you want to go, don't go there. Don't go there in your mind. Don't go there in your energy. You do have one really powerful tool, and that is that you can actually manifest who you want to be and how you want to be perceived. I forget the question already. Somebody will have remembered it. I've totally moved on. Balancer00, and that was for Jim. Balancer00 said, it's easier if I accept that I'm an eternal being having a human experience. Yeah, sure. But even saying that, and thank you, Cynthia, I feel the same way. I don't want to go to the dark. If I have a choice to be light, happy, and joyous, or be preoccupied with the dark energies of existence, here's how I see it. God gave us free will to be who we choose to be. I want to be this. Whoa! Chris B, thank you so much for the super sticker. And he says, pair character sliding on the floor. Oh, I see. That's the actual sticker. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris B, for your generosity. I want to share the joy with everybody. And I want you to know that I feel elated in my heart. And that every single comment, super sticker, all that means very much to me and the show, so I can continue on doing it. And yeah, using this software. I want to show you something quickly. I want to go back to this right here. So this was what people answered. I never had, thanks again, Chris, for all your support. Thank you, Karen, for commenting, and Daryl. Look at this. So people were, by the way, you can answer this poll right now and shift these numbers if you don't agree with it by going to my community page. I do post things there. And I want you to see how most people were afraid of the uncertainty. Then people were afraid to miss loved ones. Let's talk about loved ones for a second. So my father, by the way, just before I move on, I got to tell you this dream I had the other day. Don't let me forget about my father, Shelley. So this dream, 2 days ago, I dreamt that there was a guy golfing in my house. He was doing putting. And I looked at him and I said, what are you doing golfing in my house? Are you golfing in my house? And he looked at me and smiled and held his golf club. And I know it seems very random to say this, but he said, I'm here and I'm real. And I came to say hi. And I thought, whoa, that is so crazy. And he was a golfer that came, and I looked up famous golfers and I identified who it was. And I happened to be in a place where people go golfing a lot. So I don't know why I wanted to tell you about that dream. Usually I leave those kinds of dreams out, but I will share one that is meaningful to this conversation. And that is that I have met loved ones who didn't even meet me here on earth. So don't worry, you are not going to be left alone. Were you left alone when you came to this earth? No. Suddenly first of all, you had an immediate family that you were born into. And then you met friends, which is wonderful. And then, you met more partners and things like that in your life. So you're never left alone. And if you look at the history of reality, I think that that's a good foreshadowing of what's to come, isn't it? So if you move on to a different dimension, then you are also going to have friends and family and loved ones. And if you release your anxieties and judgment and fears, that is very helpful because more people will want to be around you and attracted to you. Shelley G says, there is no separation. We just believe we were. Okay, so here, this brings me to something, and I want to make sure that when I say this, it doesn't come across as judging, but it comes across as a helpful lesson. The way that you show up in any dimension here on earth, let's talk about here on earth because this is where we live. The way you show up for people, if you show up and criticize under the auspices that you're trying to help give people advice, you're not hiding. Your intention is very clear. What you're saying is, I don't like you the way that you are. I think you should be different, and here's how you could be different. It's never looked at like, oh, that person's so smart and they gave me good advice. No. People are hurt by that. They feel offended and they feel not enough. So if you choose to be loved and you choose to enjoy joy and you want to attract through your vibrational rate good things, then show up good. Show up good. Show up pleasant, show up lovely. I'm not saying don't be yourself. I want you to be yourself. And if being cantankerous and all of that is who you truly are, then, and for those of you that are new to my show, hello, I'm Silvia Isachsen. I do this every Saturday. It's my spiritual show, live, and welcome. Okay, so if you want to show up cantankerous and all that, I'm not here to tell you not to. I'm just going to tell you that you will most likely be met with the same kind of environment because that's what you're creating with that light that's within you. Which brings me to one of my favorite scientists, Einstein, who created that equation E equals mc squared. So mc squared is matter. Energy, matter. You have that light, which is energy, which is never destroyed. I believe he also confirmed that for us through science. So you have that energy, that light that's never destroyed, and you create mass, which is material things. So you created your body, you came to this existence, and at the end, this is what's going to happen right here. The butterfly thing, avoiding it, being scared of it, being worried, like, and you know, what is that verse, Shelley G, that Jesus says, worry not for tomorrow. Don't the birds, the robins and all that, they have what they need. I'm going to tell you that too in a very unsophisticated way, that you are going to be cared for. I mean, take a look at the universe. It's a massive universe. You're never going to be without unless that's what you choose through your cultivating. So we have this fear of death. I want to see what Jeremy said. I didn't even know you did live streams. Watched a couple of your videos and subscribed a while back. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Yeah, I do live streams every Saturday. I really do love doing the live streams because I get connected with my members as well as the people who like to come to my channel, my subscribers. And I just enjoy that kind of interaction. I think some people feel really unnerved by it. And by the way, if you do have any questions, please let me know. And if you ever do want to subscribe, you can, super chats. Basically what happens is that I have this channel and I get the software and I do the editing, and I love doing NDEs, but I want to expand that to what now? After you understand that you are eternal, after we know that there is no such thing as death and that there's love waiting for us and relatives, after we know all those things, then what? After we get past the traumas of things and we do our forgiveness for people and we understand that we're going to live our best lives, and that in order to be abundant, in order for us to have abundance, we need to be abundant, and that if we show up happy and joyous, that's what our life's going to be, then what? And that's what this channel is about, really. And also about sort of dispelling any myths of what reality truly is. And to let you know, hold on a second, Shelley G says, therefore I tell you, do not, oh, she's quoting Jesus here. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Look at the birds in the air. And that's Matthew 6:25. Thanks for finding that. I really, really appreciate that. So if that's what Jesus said, then that's what he meant. And that we don't need to have to worry about it. Quick question. Did you worry about coming to Earth? Did you worry about, oh my gosh, I shouldn't? And also, how much do you think you influence who you are today? 100%. So how much do you think you were involved in you coming to this earth? 100%. And I wanted to just say hello to some new people. Preliminal. I wanted to say preliminal. that person. Hello to you and welcome. And Jeremy as well. So how much do you think that you were involved in actually being the creator of your life? And do you think that you were involved in choosing your parents? And I think that there's some conversation that could be said here. So maybe a set of parents were delegated or appointed to you so that you can learn the lessons that you wanted, or maybe you specifically picked those people. I think that there's some room, some wiggle room there. Jeremy said, I had a prophetic dream all my life. That's what got me into this. Good. And you know what? And Jim said, love that verse. That's what comforted me since I was a child. Excellent. So I too had dreams, and that's what got me here. I dreamt that I told you that my very first dream was of my grandpa. And I have a dream video coming up for you guys, which I have never shared before. And I'm going to tell you a little bit now, and then I'll record it and put it up online. I haven't done a dream video for a while. I have 2 NDEs coming up, and this dream video was that I woke up and I wonder, you guys want to hear, do you want me to keep it a surprise, or do you guys want me to tell you a little bit about it now? While you're letting me know whether you want me to keep the dream a surprise or give you a little teaser about it. I don't like that word. What's the word for it? A little preliminary stuff. Speaking of preliminal, I have mixed feelings about whether I choose to come here, they said, or if I was pulled against my will. Oh, yeah, well, I can help you with that. Your vibration and who you are being will dictate exactly where you go. That's it. No mystery. Who you are being and your vibration, your soul vibration, will indicate where you go. Well, why are you so certain of that? Because in science and in nature and in reality, like attracts like. So if you're vibrating at a certain level, that's where you're going. That's the parents you're going to, that's the life you're going to, that's the existence that you will have. And here's a great example. If you're in a place where you don't want to be and the vibration isn't your vibe, the first thing you want to do is get out. Whether that vibration is better for you or not, doesn't matter. If your vibe doesn't match that vibe, you will want to leave. You will not want to stay there, and you'll do everything in your power to do that. Now, God gave you free will. There's your answer right there. And whatever you decide to vibrate at is where you're going to. Birds of a feather flock together. That's not a biblical one. But, okay, so the dream. Warning, this is a bit outlandish. And when I had the dream, I was like blown away, truly. So I had this dream that I was with 6 people. And one of the people was a guide. One of the people on this journey was a guide. And this guide looked like he had a white beard, very friendly, incredible sense of humor. And then suddenly there was some other guides there too. And they said, hey Sylvia, do you want to learn about the universe? And I'm like, yeah, I do want to learn about the universe. I told you it's outlandish. It's different. It's a different dream. So they started taking me through the universe, and I started looking at planets, and I started to say, I'm really concerned about Earth and where it's going and what's happening and the plastic in the ocean and all those things, because I'm a conscientious person. And I was really conveying my concern for the Earth. And they started to laugh. And I was tremendously, hey Brooke, good to see you here. They started to laugh, these guides, and I was very offended that they would laugh at my concern. And they said, Sylvia, we want you to think about something. Hi Rob. Hi Brooke. Hi everyone. They said, Sylvia, I want you to think about something. That the Earth, at some point, everything recycles itself. It's not always going to be that way. And I said, yeah, but I love the Earth. I think the Earth is so beautiful. I don't want anything to happen. And they said, the entire universe is about recycling. So your idea about this Earth and the recycling, it's a good one. However, entire planets and stars blow up. And if supernovas didn't happen, they wouldn't eject all of their elements within them, such as gold and I think it's helium and all the different heavy metals, iron. If a supernova didn't blow up, we wouldn't have the iron of the core of the Earth. So everything is continually renewing, just like that, the butterfly there. And that I should not be concerned about that. And then they took me out until I saw our galaxy. And they said, this is really going out there. They said that the black holes are in charge of renewal, and they recycle in this spinning motion. I was like, really? And they said, yeah, just like on Earth, you'll see examples of that, such as when you see, a drain and all of those different vortexes. And I'm like, really? And they said, yeah, that's the thing. And throughout your galaxies, there are vortexes that are renewing. And inside there's a really big one inside your galaxy that renews. So that made me think about something before I continue. Not right now, but it made me think before. When people pass on, they say that they go very fast and they go through light. And they are in light form. They don't have their body. We can all agree that you don't have your body when you leave. So you're going through this tunnel, which very well could be a vortex. And you're moving at the speed of light, which is exactly what happens when you go into the over the horizon, event horizon, if you know about black holes. And so they were explaining to me how the whole principle behind this universe is recycling through this manner. Even our own galaxy today is being recycled. In the center of it is a black hole. I know I'm going deep here, but follow me. So if our universe and planets are being recycled, we are also being recycled. And when we pass away, our body goes into the ground and becomes something different. And our spirit moves on through a vortex, which I feel, if they told me that the principle was all on the black hole principle, then we are going through the other side. We all understand that once we pass the event horizon, we cannot come back. And oftentimes people say, why can't my loved one come back? Why can't they come back? Because they've crossed the event horizon. There's a no point of return place. They've gone to the other side. They can communicate through telepathy. And yeah, we are going deep. Tell me if I'm going too deep here. I think Brooks got it, but let's talk for a moment. So then they took me on it, and then they said that the entire universe itself is in the shape of the infinity. And I thought, that is the most obvious symbol for it. Why didn't I ever think about that before? Why didn't I ever think that the universe was shaped like infinity? And they explained this. We're here to go deep. Good, perfect. So they explained the infinity symbol, and they said it's pinched at one end, and all of the material gets pulled in by gravity. And they explained to me that gravity is the force of love. They called gravity the force of love. So all things are squeezed into this point, And then the Big Bang happens on the other end of the point after enough material has condensed and created such a high pressure. High pressure goes to low pressure, if you know about science. So this high pressure density of material gets pushed out the other side, just like birth, for example. So a lot of things are based on that principle of the infinity and of recycling. So, including us. And since we're on the topic of death, why not have that conversation? I went 10 steps beyond what I normally would, and I normally don't share that because it's very vulnerable. And they were very clear on what they were sharing with me. They explained to me what it meant and how it worked and how the universe does work. And I'm very excited to know that. It makes me happy. Not far different than a butterfly and a pupa and going through that. When we pass on, our light and our connection to God never changes. The question is, how do we see God? You know, if you see God sitting on a chair and that he's some guy that is going to tell you what's right and wrong, you're going to heaven and hell, that in my mind, it reminds me of thinking that the earth was flat. I view where we go next as multidimensional, massively optional, and that our vibration is going to indicate that. I know that God is connected to each and every one of us, and that is that light energy that's within you is that part of God. So that's how you're made in his image, in light. If we're made in God's image and we have light within us, then that is light, and it permeates the whole universe. Boom. So there you go. So let's read some comments. Rose Fata says hello. Jim LaFleur says depots. And then Imoke says this is very close to Melon Thomas NDE. He also said black holes are recycling. Yay! Thank God, because when I hear NDEers speak, it validates me so much. It makes me feel so good about the dream that I had, because I don't just think, did I just imagine that? I know I didn't. When you have a lucid dream and people are communicating these concepts and principles to you, you know it's real. There's no doubt about it. And I have a very detailed memory of how it is. And they even explain something further. Hopefully nobody gets offended by this, but they explained how when you're creating a child, if a woman decides to have a child, what you do is you have this desire, and then when you're eating your food and you're growing the child, and the child leaves in a different formation. When the child formed in the very beginning, it was in a different state at conception, and then it changed in that phase. So that's one phase of life in existence. And when that child was born, just like the butterfly, new phase. We're constantly changing phases. And that's why I wanted to share this with you today, to let you know, no fear, we're constantly changing. If you have fear that you're not good enough or that you're not attracting the right thing, that's a different story. Then, take my abundance challenge. I'll put the link below and we'll help you remove your blocks. But I think that the biggest fear is that we're not blooming and living our best life and actualizing as much as we can. That's probably the scariest part. Even I worry about that. Like, did I do enough? Did I share enough? Was I open enough? And this is why I started my channel. I did not want to die with the music in me. I wanted to make sure that everything I knew was going to come out at the risk of, being judged. Because remember, that judgment that we lay on people holds people back from blooming. I think the baddest part about judgment is that it prevents people from actualizing what their purpose is and just being themselves. That's why it's so important for you to be able to allow people to be themselves. If you don't want to be around that energy, you have the right to leave. But it's important not to try to change people into what we want. Allow them to go through their growth and their stages and their phases of who they need to be, unless they specifically come to you for assistance. Okay, so Brooke, I like the 10 steps beyond. Yay! Good, Brooke. Good to see you here. And Jim said Homer Simpson went through one that came to the earth in 3. I know that you are always funny about your spirituality. And I kind of like it. You remind me of those guides that I had, and they were laughing all the time, and they were showing me the universe, and we were cruising through. And one place that we went to, there were two suns. And I was thinking, we don't have two suns. And he said, that's because we are not. We took you to somewhere new, Silvia. And you know, I have not had a lot of those galaxy dreams. So those dreams are very sacred and near and dear to me. And but I did see the two suns, and it was so bright I couldn't even open up my eyes. And when I came back, of course I couldn't explain it to anyone. Now I have a channel where all of you are weirdos like me. So I'm happy, and I say that with love in my heart, that you guys are open to information like that. So I hope that we went over the 10, because now we're going over time. I went over, and usually I'm only on here for an hour. We went through the top 10 fears of dying. Do you at all feel any better about dying? About that's kind of a funny question. Are you confident in transformation is what I want to say. Do you understand that any of the pain that, yeah, that's it, you're seekers. That's what I'll call you, friends and seekers. Yes, please don't forget the thumbs up, and thank you so much for the donations through the super chats. That's really lovely. You don't want to leave, but I don't want to leave, but not too scared to. Yes, of course. I mean, here's the thing. It should be so seamless that it just happens. That's what our transformation should be. It should be so seamless that we don't even notice. And we should step in with no fear. Thank you to Eternal and QNB. Hey, I recognize you. You just commented on one of my videos and you said, I appreciate your work. Or I think it was the actual voting area that you commented on. I'm starting to recognize your names when I see them over. Cindy Blunt. I'm okay with weirdo. Yeah, we're truth seekers and weirdos. Cynthia said, I just want to fully live before I leave. Yes. And ultimately, if you have that attitude, Cynthia, it will be easy to transition. If you've worn out and used up, it's like a toothpaste, or some cream. If you've used that up fully, you're ready to go on to the next one. And I want you to have a joyous life. Whoa, Jeremy, thank you so much for your generous super chat. Thanks for the show. So on that high note, I'm gonna say bye to everyone. And again, there's a person here that I wanted to just mention who is always sending me loving things, and I can't see through the dang chat. That's it, Lily Jane. Thank you so much for starting the super chats off. Thank you for those of you who simply did a thumbs up, means a lot. A comment means a lot. Subscription. I hope that our conversation meant something to you, and I look forward to seeing you next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. So long for now.